Every belief system begins with a way of seeing the world. Arch Heathenry had one too, and it's worth understanding.
Before the myths became stories, they were part of a lived reality, and today we step into that reality.
Hell yeah. They stole the tongues from our ancestors. They burned the god poles and sacred groves. They buried the bones of our ways under stone churches and foreign thrones. But the old ways didn't die. They hid among the traditions that live on still today. Gothi Bodvarr Gydia Skogul are husband and wife, souls bound for over 3 decades. Walking the old road in a modern world, we live our faith out loud through kinship, ritual, and real talk. No gatekeeping, no dogma, just the work, the wisdom, and the way home. This is the path to remember who we are. This is the Northwoods Kindred podcast. Welcome to Northwoods Kindred podcast, episode number 45. And today we're defining what we mean by Arch Heathen Worldview. You might have heard that buzzword before. Let's talk about it.
By the end, you'll know the core principles and why they matter without the dramatized Viking fluff.
The Viking fluff. Right. There we go. So the Arch Heathen Worldview is the mindset and value system that our ancestors actually lived by, not the internet myth and not the fantasy aesthetic that we hear. And I mean, people throw that buzzword around, Arch Heathen this and Arch Heathen that, but who really knows what that means, right?
Right.
Archaic heathen. Right. So that's like, what did the ancestors do when, not Asatru, but just like whatever Asatru came from? What were our ancestors doing to live their life, and how did they see the world? Independent of religion, just their lifestyle and their worldview. Obviously, our worldview is vastly different, right? But I think that there's some common threads that we can carry forward into the place where we live now and live a little bit closer to the land and a little bit more connected, to our faith. I think modern heathens, they still got that consumerism mindset, and I don't know if that was, well, I'm pretty sure that wasn't like the mindset back in the days. Like,
no, that's totally been bred into us.
Yeah, for sure it has. I mean, consumerism is definitely something that we've been brainwashed into doing. But I meant more like modern heathens have this need to like look the part, right? And that comes with purchasing the right stuff and not. I mean, a lot of people can make it, right? So, but some of the reenactment groups that we engage with, they make all of their clothing and all of their stuff. That's a little different than buying a faux fur stole and buying a tunic on the internet and then just playing a cartoon character sort of a role, right?
Right. But I mean, you have to consider, there's people out there that don't really have the skills, or they think they don't have the skills. I certainly didn't think I did until, I learned how to work those skills.
Yeah, that might be like a key metric that people just don't have a lot of confidence in their ability. And we're going to get into a little bit of this in a minute about not that you do have the skill, but you have to do things because things weren't available, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know how to milk a goat, but I got a goat and its teats are swollen. I'm going to figure it out. Right. So there's poor goat.
Poor goat.
So there's a lot of things that I think they just kind of got thrown into and just had to figure out.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do that. Everything that we need. I mean, truthfully, like even food, push of a button, DoorDash, right? Like you can literally have.
Oh yeah. Pretty soon it's going to be like hologrammed in front of us.
And I'm not knocking that. Like convenience is fantastic. Look at us. We're talking to however many thousands of people on the internet. From our office,
yeah,
So, I mean, I'm not knocking that kind of stuff, but I think that modern consumer mindset is pretty far removed from the mindset that our ancestors had about how they acquire and use goods, right?
Well, so a good example of that is, growing up, I ate food out of the grocery store. And then when you start hunting, it's like, whoa, that's where food comes from. Like, really?
Well, okay. I didn't start hunting. I've been hunting my whole life before you were part of it.
Well, I know. I'm just saying that
When I introduced you
you introduced me to it,
to dead animals that
yeah,
didn't come from a package.
and you're like, here, I need you to cook this up and dice it and saute it, and it's like, ooh, okay. It doesn't come in cellophane wrapping.
It took a while.
So yeah, I had a really big aversion to wild game.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember.
And now we're, sacrificing our own livestock in ritual, and it's so delicious.
And our elk hunts, every year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we go out and hunt. The deer is kind of incidental. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But deliberately, we go out every year and collect elk. So we're getting 2 to 4 elk a year for us and our kinsmen.
Yeah.
And
sorry,
we're not always doing it.
I kind of took you off the track there.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, the kind of the Arch Heathen worldview. And yeah, they were hunting with bows on skis, and we're wearing snowshoes and hunting with rifles.
Yeah.
Like it's different, but it's not that different.
Yeah. But how amazing when we went and had ritual over that elk with our kinsmen. That was.
Yeah. Well, twice now we've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, kind of keeping this moving a little bit. One other major difference between modern and archaic heathens is the isolation.
Mm.
So we tend to be more isolated and more separate, whereas our archaic counterparts, they lived and died by community,
mm-hmm.
right? Isolation or separatism at all, being separated from the community, was in a lot of ways a death sentence. So I think in some respects, modern heathens, not all by any stretch, but some are just like convenience driven, like spiritual tourists. When we talk about heathenry or Ásatrú, some of them are just passing through Ásatrú on their way to the next thing.
Yes.
And it's all about convenience. And Ásatrú isn't a real convenient religion to have. It's tough to explain it to your friends and family because it's not really codified. It's tough to explain to your bosses and coworkers if you feel the need to do that, which I don't particularly, but some people do. There's just not a lot. Everything requires a massive amount of homework.
Yes.
Right? Everything from the symbols to the terminologies that we use, to the specific languages, to what sources are credible and which sources are not. There's no convenience about it. It's not like Christianity where it's like, here's your Bible. You got your King James version of the Bible, follow it.
Yeah, here's your book.
Yeah, here's your book, follow the rules.
Here's a couple songs to sing.
I think that when you start leaning more towards that archaic, that Arch Heathen worldview, that's where it really starts to separate the religion from the pretend identity that goes along with it, right? When you start living Ásatrú as your daily life, I think we live, even in a modern world, much closer to the ancestors, that were living this before it had a name, right? I think that the nearer we get to practicing authentically, the closer we get to the original practitioners, when it's not some game. So let's talk about, did you bring up that definition of Arch Heathen on your phone? Did you want to read that?
Arch Heathen or archaic?
Well, archaic, the definition because we wanted to kind of just define it and make sure that we're all talking about the same thing, because it would kind of suck to sit here and talk for 40 minutes to an hour and people don't know what archaic means.
Okay. Okay. Archaic means very old, from an earlier ancient period, outdated, or belonging to an earlier time. Let's see, an archaic word, an example, is a word no longer commonly used. Archaic customs, practices from a much earlier era. And archaic beliefs, ways of thinking rooted in ancient worldviews.
And I think that's probably about enough. Archaic would be
ancient, old style, and early times.
And probably no longer like in massive circulation, right? Let's talk about just from our interpretation of the lore and the things that we've read and the way that we live, that there's a few core like pillars of the Arch Heathen worldview. And one of them is that fate has weight. We have a fate. It's not necessarily fixed. And so I try to explain to some people about how I see it. And I don't know if this is how everybody sees it, but I kind of tend to think that the beginning and the end are fixed, right? The beginning and the end are fixed, but the path you take to get there is entirely up to you, right? And you can end at that end point, so we'll just say, just basically, you're meant to be born to this particular mother and father in this timeline in this place, right? So how you come in is fixed. How you leave was predestined. You're going to die in battle, right?
Right.
How you get there and even how you die is entirely up to the way you live, right? You can die a brave warrior and, earn the Medal of Honor, or you can die a coward hiding behind a vehicle on fire. You know what I mean? Like those, but you're going to die at that registered place in time. We just don't know when that is. So our job as heathens, or really as humans, is to live the best life we can live until we get to that predestined time, because you're not cheating it. Right?
No.
Odin proved too many times that you can't cheat it, even if you know about it. All you can do is usher it in and make it happen. The more you try to cheat it, the more you make it real.
Yeah.
So fate has weight. It has a bearing on how we live. So if we never know what the outcome is going to be or when our last day is going to be, we have to live authentically every minute so there are no regrets when we finally go. You can't be like, I'm going to be a coward today and I'll just be brave tomorrow. Well, tomorrow may never come, right? So you have to be brave the whole time, or you have to be accountable the whole time, and you have to be a good person to people, because there's not going to be an opportunity to make it up. We don't just get to be like, oh,
you're not going to respawn.
Yeah. Well, you don't get to, well, I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. Like, I'm just guessing here. Like, I don't know. I haven't gone and come back that I recall. Yeah. So I don't really know how it works, but we know that our Arch Heathen ancestors they put a high value on the way that you lived, how you treated people, how, how daring you were, the things that you did. And it's not, I'm not trying to make it into like this uber masculine culture, because it's not about like taking risk. It's about living fully, right? Not hiding away in your shelter, waiting for your final day, but going out and living and saying, it's going to come anyway. There's nothing I can do to make it worse. So I'm going to be the bravest, most honorable person I can be, because that's who I want to be, because I think my life will be better that way than the other, Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of the episode we did a couple episodes ago. I think it was 43, and you were talking about a bunker.
Right. Yeah.
And if it's just you and your family in the bunker, you might as what are you living for? Yeah.
Right. Your fate is fixed either way.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Might as well go out in a blaze of glory.
Blaze of glory.
So your word and your orlog actions carry consequences, right? So your weird and your orlog are, I guess they're kind of like the same, really. I mean, there's probably some subtle distances, but they're basically just your fate. And I don't necessarily believe that our fate is fixed in the respect that everything is already preordained and it's just going to come to pass how it comes to pass, and therefore you have no free will, and that you really don't have a say in the fight. I don't necessarily believe in that. There may be some key points that are fixed along your path. I believe maybe that, like in my case, right? Like I was born into the household I was born into. So there are certain key points along that. I would certainly meet you as one of those key points. Certainly going in the Marine Corps is one of those key points. Coming out of it is a key point. And then possibly even starting this Kindred or meeting with Gallant, like those are key points, and those might be fixed along the route. But what happens in between those moments is how you really is up to how you live your life, right? And how you treat people and how you do those kind of things. So, but those had weight, and the things that you did actually had consequences. Drag you deeper down and into your hole, there was a lot of different ways my Marine Corps career could have gone. All right.
Yeah.
I could have got, I mean, the truth is if we're digging into the career, in my career, I always opted for training over advancement.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I retired a gunnery sergeant. I could have retired a first sergeant or a master sergeant or possibly even a sergeant major if I'd stayed in a little bit longer. But I didn't, because rather than go to my boring, stale PME classes, which I got them all knocked out, but definitely could have done them faster.
Yeah.
I went to advanced sniper or mountain scout sniper course or, urban reconnaissance and surveillance or some cool course, or mountain survival, or
you were always excited when you were
instructor
going to another
course.
Yeah.
So it was always, for me, it was always about these adventure courses where I got to go test myself against the elements, against other people, against, the written standard, like always testing myself against these things. And then you go to corporal's course and you're like, okay, left, right, left, let's learn how to drill, use a sword, all this garbage. And it's like, I don't want to do this crap.
Yeah, I don't want to do this crap and stay home.
Yeah. But anyway, so each of those key points, I think the route to them and the route from them are completely up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
But those points are there, So, so in short, like, your life is shaped by what you do. I don't think the Norns lay everything out in such a rigid way that you don't have any say in it, how you live your life, because all that would really be is that's just an excuse for dishonorable people to be dishonorable. So like, well, I'm dishonorable because that's the way the Norns did it, and I don't really have a say in it. No, you're a piece of that's what you are. You're a dishonorable piece of and you're using some archaic misinterpretation as a reason to be a piece of shit, instead of being good to people and treating people well. And, so I don't think that that's a fair excuse.
Yeah.
And if it is an excuse, who cares? Do better. You can just do better. You don't have to be like that. You don't have to treat people poorly just because the Norns decreed it. I mean, that's a lame excuse.
So you're saying, like, live your life. There's no entitlement. There's no victimhood. And get to your path, and you have choices along the way. You get to that end result and you have choices.
Yeah, I would think so. I think that's an Arch Heathen kind of worldview. No entitlement for sure.
Yeah.
Like, you get what you work for. Nobody's entitled to anything. I mean, maybe the occasional pompous son of a jarl or something, some young prince, felt entitled. But I think even then they had to work really hard to maintain their station, right? They had to keep up appearances. They had to learn to fight and do these various things. I don't think they could just be weak little entitled victims.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you look at, Christianity, like, you can be a dirt bag of a person. Like, your life is just how it is, and you can live it however you want. And at the end, you just get a free pass into the kingdom of heaven, right?
I don't know how that works. So I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't really know how it works. But it seems to me on the outside looking in that, you can pretty much be the scumbag you want up until the moment of your death. And if you got a couple of minutes real quick, you can be like, hey, I'm sorry for everything I ever did.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can be a good person like your whole life, and then all of a sudden just that little like, ooh, I'm just going to be bad right now and just do some scumbag stuff.
Yeah. But, so some Christians would say, God knows your heart, so you can't lie about feeling sorry. But then what's the point of converting people at the tip of a sword because they're lying,
Good point.
So it doesn't, that bucket doesn't really hold water, does it?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, instead of beating that up, I think that no entitlement, no victimhood, and just ownership of your path, of your life, of where you're at in your journey. I think those are Arch Heathen principles that are slipping away from us now. There's a lot of entitlement. There's a lot of victimhood. I don't know how many people we talk to, and you don't got to work very hard talking to anybody right now on the internet, especially before they start laying out their resume of dysfunctions.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we all got dysfunctions, but But you can bet that within 6 seconds, you're learning that they are autistic, neurodivergent, with ADHD and a touch of autism. And it's like, man, I just asked if you were Ásatrú. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad, but it's really the only way. What I'm seeing is it's a way that people can feel universally accepted,
Mhm.
right? Because if the more marginalized groups you can fall into, the less rejection that you get as you move around. And we certainly fall into some of those categories,
Mhm.
but we don't have to wear them on our sleeve. We can just like know who we are and try to not let that affect how we deal with the world at large, right?
Yeah. But generally, I'm going to get that word wrong. Generationally,
Mm-hmm.
there's such a big gap between like our generation and the newer generation. They just have to give that information out.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is, but I mean, certainly our parents thought we were a bunch of dipshits too,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yeah.
because we come from boomers,
Mhm.
right? And they weren't exactly great people,
Yeah.
most of them. So,
Yeah, it's sad. I hope moving forward that people don't have to do that as much.
yeah, well, I think it's really about those are walls. Those are bricks in a wall. And
Mm.
people are building these walls to put up to, in some cases, to protect themselves. They're like, well, those people didn't like me because of these things, not because of me as a person, but because I have these issues, and they didn't like me because of my issues. So it's a defensive mechanism in some cases, and in some cases, it might just be a cop out.
Yeah.
It might just be an excuse to act a certain way. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze everybody for their stuff. I'm just saying that this isn't consistent with the Arch Heathen worldview. And while we have kinsmen who fall into all of those categories, those categories are never front and center.
No.
When we gather before the gods, they never mention them in bloat and ritual, and they never mention them when we're hanging out. But certainly we have people that have all these things, all the way down to severely autistic children.
Yeah. But if you look on the other side of this, when we have prospective members, interested in Northwoods, and we're interested in them, we have them fill out our application. I don't know a better word for that.
It is, yeah.
But on there, we have, disabilities and food allergies and any type of that thing. So that works really good, I think, in person, because if we know that this kinsman has this and he's off somehow, then we know how to approach that.
Right. All right.
I'm trying to do this kind of cryptic without.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's kind of just an online version of it.
It could be. Like, we admittedly are new at this. Like, we've been online for a couple of years, but
we're not social creatures.
Well, we're not.
You and I.
The problem is, I think that we grew up in a time before the internet.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't grow up in a time where we grew up in a time where the nerds got beat up. And, I know I was a nerd, but I didn't get beat up. I beat up other people for beating up the nerds. It was a weird twist.
Yeah.
Right? I was a nerd skater, punk rocker, but definitely a nerd also. But we grew up in a time where you didn't wear your issues out. You tried to conceal them as best as possible because they made you a target. Now, the less issues you wear on your sleeve, the more of a target you tend to be.
Yeah, it reversed.
It kind of flipped.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, just as we're talking about it right now, I'm just kind of now seeing that. It's not something that I worked out in my head, but I can't pretend to understand it, but I can empathize with people where that's how they have to present themselves. Right. I can understand that they feel that that's a necessary way to present themselves. How often does it happen on our Discord? Hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I am autistic and neurodivergent, and I have an allergy to light, and I have, and it's like, welcome to Northwoods Kindred Discord, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. And then those things come out when they conveniently be used to escape accountability for something, right? Oh, I just said that thing because that's part of my autism. No, you went off on another tribesman.
Yeah.
That's not autism. That's being right. You don't get to blame that on your disabilities. You still have to treat people well. And sometimes I think that that's a back door to not being accountable for treating people well. We're kind of getting off on a tangent. I really don't want to chase people away with my ridiculous psychoanalyzing of people I don't know. Right. That's not really the point, but I find that that's relatively new, and it's not consistent with an old heathen worldview. And I think that once even modern heathens that feel the need to do that don't necessarily translate to that in physical person-to-person gatherings. When they do, those walls tend to come down.
Well, maybe maybe in the future instead we can change the narrative of that, where people can come in and say, hi, my name is so and so, and I'm really good at this, and I am intelligent and kind. And, maybe we can try to
slowly manipulate it into the way where it's like, give us your positive traits, not your negative ones. Yeah.
Like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? And are you good with your hands?
Hey, that's clever. We should,
we
can kind of work on that, because, and really we should do that primarily with those that come in and lead with their disabilities. Certainly I have disabilities.
Yeah. Now tell us all your positives.
Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, I can identify with all of those things. But hey, do you like to work with your hands? What kind of hobbies do you have?
Yeah.
Do you build stuff? I'm a knife maker. Do you work with metal?
Yeah. So maybe we can change that.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I love it how just kind of work themselves out when you talk about them instead of just sitting around and stewing over crap.
Yeah. Because just because we don't understand them doesn't mean they're not, real, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah, I don't understand the psychology of it for sure. Maybe I will when I start getting a little deeper into my psychology courses, but
I know, like, if I get down on myself, you are like, nope, you're this, and this, and you got all this going for you, and you're really good at this. And
I even do it with our bosses at work.
Yeah, you do. You do. So maybe that's something we can pay forward.
Yeah, let's work on that. Let's figure out how to do that. It probably requires a tactic. We're a little off base right now.
Yeah.
But hey, so you guys saw it here first, folks. Look, we're figuring it out. So going back to the heathen worldview, I think that why it was important, like I said, I guess we can kind of tie it together because we're talking about building walls to escape accountability for your actions, right? Or using these negative personal traits as excuses to escape accountability for the way that you treat people or the way that you interact. But I think the Arch Heathens understood that reputation mattered socially and spiritually. Like, your reputation mattered, and your reputation was built on how you acted, how you carried yourself, how you interacted, and your honor governed your choices.
Yeah,
so if you were an honorable person, you made different choices than a dishonorable person. I think anybody can agree to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is coming from a time where all you had at the end was your name. Like, your name outlives you.
Yeah, and if you were lucky, maybe you made a good, big enough impression on those people in your life that they would carve a stone and put your name on it, right? Generally, they put their own name too, Thorfinn died in an honorable way. This stone was carved by his buddy, Thorvald. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wants their name on a rock, I suppose.
Yep.
But at least they took the time to do that. So, yeah. I guess that, if you're an honorable person and you lived an honorable life, then when you checked out, people missed you and wanted to memorialize you with that. And we know, I mean, Sweden especially, but Sweden, Norway, Denmark, they all got rune stones all over the place. There's probably a bunch that haven't even been discovered. Some farmer's gonna be plowing his field and hit one and flip it up, and they'd be like, "Oh wow, this is where somebody did that thing in the sagas, or maybe we haven't heard about this one yet. It creates a new saga. Who knows? Right.
But I mean, this is where, our memory round ensemble, comes from.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't historically accurate back then, but your name was what mattered.
Mhm.
And in that mini round is, the names that matter.
Yeah. They probably don't. I don't know if we talked about it on here or not before, but so we've got kinsmen that died many, many years ago, a couple of them. And one in particular, Herger, we've raised so many horns to Herger. Our children have raised horns to Herger. He was the uncle that everybody wished they had, right? And then he died. And in fact, a lot of the books in our collection come from him too. They were left from his Arvel. But we've raised so many horns to him that people that have never met him have raised horns to him just because they see the impact that his life had on ours. Now, if that's not a legacy, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
When people who have never met you are raising horns to you just because they can see the impact that you left on people that they love and care for. That's real. And anybody tells me that a symbol's not authentic, who cares if it's authentic? It's real.
Yeah.
It's a real deal. So we take the liberty to be able to create stuff like that. There's a lot of inauthentic things. This podcast is pretty inauthentic to the Viking Age, right? But we're still doing it. It still has value to somebody.
So, speaking of Herger, it just hearing you talk about him takes me back to your earlier conversation about, when you're born and you die and you have those checkpoints along the way. And I can look back at our time that we knew him and see those checkpoints and the different directions he went.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
You can mark those checkpoints. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess really a takeaway from that is that live like people are going to speak your name when you're gone. What do you want them to say about you? If whatever you want them to say about you, live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want people to say, "Oh, that guy was kind of shifty. He's always full of problems. I think he stole my shit once." Like you don't want people to say that, right?
Yeah.
People want to say like, "Good dude, best guy I ever met. Help me out in this place. Put his own personal life on hold to get me through these other things." That's the kind of things. If you want him to say those kind of things, then you have to live that life.
Yeah.
You have to do those things. If you wanted a runestone carved by your brother, you needed to be a good brother.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. And this, I know I keep getting all, going back to our life and stuff, but this kind of reminds me of like your father, like any of your father's friends, like they loved him. He was like the best friend a man could have, but kind of did a real crappy job as a dad.
Hey, he was a father. Yeah.
But any friend that you spoke to of him, he was the best guy.
His
ever.
friends. Oh yeah. He was the best guy. He'd fixed anything. He was always there for them. And it's like, well, I'm his only son, and I spent like 2 summers with him my whole life. So how good a man is he really? Yeah. He fixed your car. Big deal. Look what he did to his son.
So I mean, his name is probably spoken, well in his friend circle, but
but his kids don't speak well of him. So
no,
that's just life. That's the way it is. And that's going to happen to everybody.
Yeah.
There's definitely people that's going to speak poorly of me throughout my life. And there's people that are going to speak highly of me. And it all depends on how you interact with those.
Yeah. How you treat them.
Yeah. But moving on to the next section.
Okay. I know we're running long, aren't we?
Whatever. It is what it is.
Okay.
Pillar number 3, is that our obligations are greater than our self-indulgence. And when you start thinking about that heathen worldview, is the things that you have to do in order to move the needle for the people that rely on you is much better than your comfort and your self-indulgence. And I think that's another thing that we're losing. People are losing their obligation to do things and trading it in favor of the ease of life, self-indulgence, that me first mindset, that I'll serve me and then I'll deal with you idiots. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're losing that, and that's a core pillar in the heathen mindset. And certainly we see that in the kindred. We definitely see obligation come way over self-indulgence in the kindred. I think part of that is that our duty to our family, our ancestors, those tend to be more important than our personal comfort and I won't say our needs, but our self-gratification, right? Because that's not really a need, self-gratification. It's kind of becoming one nowadays, like self-gratification and self-care and all those buzzwords.
Yeah.
But I think that your obligation to your community came before your own self-gratification.
Back then?
Back then.
Yes, yes.
And it's
I would
something
agree
we're
with that
losing.
100%.
And it's something we have in a physical kindred. There's an obligation over self-gratification. Like, what do they do as soon as they get here? They start chopping wood. You know, I mean, they've shoveled before we had a tractor. They shoveled the entire walk out to the bay through knee deep of snow, and they just shoveled it so that everybody could go. Because we had a kinsman or a kinswoman who was on crutches.
Yeah.
And we had a kinsman in a wheelchair.
Yep.
And so they shoveled the entire way out to the bay, which is not a short shovel. Nope. It's like 2 football fields. Yeah. So with twisty-turny with rocks and stuff. And they shoveled it all out in order to make sure that everybody could get out there nice and clean and even. That is definitely community over self, right?
Yeah, and they had an amazing time doing it.
Throwing snowballs and having fun. Yeah.
It was so much fun.
I think that's one unique thing that we see with our kindred is that the work obligation isn't it's not something that people spite. They're like, we gotta chop wood. They're like, yeah, let's go chop some wood. You know, like everybody's like so happy to pitch in and so happy to do work. When they come here, they're like, what can we do? We're like, chop wood.
I know, and
shovel the driveway.
And they all just got off of work too. So
Yeah.
you know, it's like Friday, and yes, it's easier to shed the work day on a Friday, but you're coming to work after work, and they're happy to do it.
Yeah.
And so much so that they've told me, like, sis, just write up on the chalkboard. Just let us know what you need us to do. And so that's what I do. It's like, I need you to chop wood. I need you to clean the vey. I need you to, hey, can you go grab all the tables and chairs? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And they just start marking them off.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they do that before they leave too. It's like, hey, sis, I got to leave in an hour. Do you got anything that we need us to get done before we leave? And they do that.
Yeah.
But along with that, so that's our physical obligations in real time, like now.
Yeah.
But we also have those same obligations to our ancestors, to the land, you know, and to the gods. You know, not just to our families and our communities, but to the gods themselves. We have these obligations to, in one way, to teach people and to talk about them and to, you know, bring their names into conversations and to invoke them in these rites. That's an obligation that we have for what we got, right? We got life out of this deal.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but you know, anybody that says life ain't a gift, it's really missing the point.
Yeah.
Even if you're in a really crappy life, like we work at Goodwill, right? I don't know if we've told people that, but
I think we have.
So it's like kind of like various different levels of our life are always some sort of service, right? And Goodwill, it don't pay well, but it's still some sort of service, right? I love dealing with people at the donation door. I love it. You know, I'll melt them. I just love dealing with people for these moments. But at the same time, we have these people who are not, they're employed and they get paid, but they're not real employees. They're participants, right?
Yes.
And they have some severe physical and mental disabilities. They are so happy to just be there and interact with people and just
have a purpose
and do something that makes somebody's life a little easier. Even though they have a participant coach who's with them and making sure that, you know, that everything, that they're safe and everything's good. You know, there's like a whole job is to make sure that they're safe so they can do a job so they can feel valued. Right.
Yes.
So there's like layers of obligation there where everybody's making everybody feel good. But the point of doing that, or the point of saying it, is that those people could really be down about life.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
anybody that's running around, anybody that's complaining on the internet does not, they have more going for them than those people.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say names, but they have a lot more going for them than some of our coworkers.
Mhm.
And they are the happiest, most fun people to be around.
Mhm.
You know, you can joke and laugh, and they're just always in a good mood. And
Yep. They're always happy to be there.
yeah, and they have way more to complain about, but they've opted out of the complaining side and opted into the living side. And I think that's a real important lesson.
Mhm.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe they just got over that point where it's like pity doesn't serve them anymore, whereas other people are in a place in their life where self-pity does serve them.
Yeah.
I hope that if that's the case, if that's your case, if self-pity is serving you well, I hope you get through that. I hope you get to the other side of that, because I've seen people on the other side of that who could be wallowing in self-pity, and they're living fantastic lives, even though it's not a life that any of us would want. Certainly they would probably prefer to have something else going on, but maybe not.
Yeah.
You know, like I think of the psychologist Milton Erickson. So he grew up in the early 1900s, and he was of just a little farm family, little poor farm family, right? And he got what was that disease? He got paralyzed from it was a disease. It's pretty much eradicated now.
Polio?
Polio, yeah. So he had polio, and the doctors came in and they told his mom, like, he ain't gonna make it through the night. And but he heard that, and so he like made his mom like rearrange his bedroom a bunch of times so he could see the sun come up the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did, and he just kind of lived through it. And then he eventually had to learn to walk again. But when all the time that he was paralyzed from, basically the only thing he'd do is move his eyes. He couldn't talk, he couldn't eat, he couldn't move, he couldn't do anything. He was just stuck in bed watching his 8 brothers and sisters like interact with each other. And he learned how to read body language and everything. So what seemed like this curse that almost murdered him, right? It almost took his life, ended up making him he's the father of like hypnotic therapies, right? So he pretty much invented the hypnotic language model, the reading of body language. There's not a body language expert that didn't get some of that information from Milton Erickson's the papers that he wrote and the lessons that he taught. So had he not had that disability, he never would have gained his superpower, which is that he could read the micro flashes of anything on your face. People will walk in his office and he solves their problems immediately. It was like a superpower.
Yeah.
But his superpower came on the back of a debilitating disease that almost killed him. But he could have wallowed in self-pity, and he would have died in a wheelchair and never been able to walk or anything. But he always knew he used, his whatever he should have been dead, right? So he used that as a motivation to get out of the chair and start moving and walking and doing his thing. And it's funny because I was reading his biography, and there's a point where he gets he's doing a psychoanalyst or whatever for a student, and the student is complaining because they have like a bum knee or something, like, you don't know what it's like to be disabled or whatever. And he's like, oh, don't I? So he's like, let me tell you a little story about polio. So but it's funny because, like I said, he kind of reminds me of some of the people that we work with, because he's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
He's not on the climb. He's not on the side where everything's getting bad, but he survived it. And now he's got his disabilities, but he uses them as fuel for his superpower. And I hope that people can get to that level and not just wallow in the self-pity mode,
Yeah.
A little bit of a long way around, how we are.
Yeah.
All right. I'm fascinated by him, though. I'm just fascinated by
I
his whole
remember
life,
you
so.
telling me this story before.
Yeah. So whatever.
So it makes me look at our coworkers now as the things that they do at work are their superpowers.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to have to use that one. at
Oh,
work.
yeah. Yeah. So everybody got a superpower. You just got to find it. And sometimes you got to find it through tragedy. So I think that maybe with that, we're talking about tragedy, but those are tragedies based on through the modern lens. Those aren't archaic tragedies. I mean, living the poor life think about living in a mud hut, mud, rocks, sticks hut that you built out on some farmstead in the cold of Norway.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty tragic life. Even if you had a pretty good life, it still sucked.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. So instead of wallowing in that kind of pity, you just you live free, right? Freedom didn't mean freedom from responsibility. It meant freedom to use your tragedy to make a better situation, like we said when we started here, the goat's teats are swollen. Better learn how to milk a goat, right? What do we do with all this milk? Well, we could drink it. We can make cheese. We can make soap. We can do all these other things with it. But nobody knows how to do that stuff until they just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? I think probably, because we were talking a lot about community, one of the things that we see now that wouldn't have survived in the Arch Heathen days was the lone wolf heathen, lone wolf, no club kind of thing.
Yeah. There seems to be a lot of them out there. They want to be a lone wolf, but they got to tell everybody they're a lone wolf.
Yeah. Yeah. Like how?
So I don't know. It's sad. I just want to it kind of sucks just to be by yourself and not to have anybody to talk to or share with. And,
yeah.
What good are you doing?
Well, kind of that mindset reminds me because, I used to run with a 3-piece patch club, and you would run into people at the bars or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm a lone wolf, lone wolf, no club." That's why I said that a second ago, because it's immediately what comes to mind. Lone wolf, no club. They wear that little patch that says lone wolf, no club. What that means is you don't have any brothers. You don't have any sisters. You don't have a family. But it also means you have no obligation, right? You have no responsibility. You jump on your bike. You go where you want to go. You do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, you're sitting alone at the end of the bar, drinking a beer, while everybody else is over there hugging each other and patting each other on the back and riding out together.
Yeah, and nobody's going to remember your name.
Yeah, because who would remember your name? They'd be like,
you got nobody.
You're not making an impact. You're just existing. So, and I think some people, they start out down that road because it's less threatening to be the lone wolf, to be, out on your own, learning and meeting and doing that. Certainly lone wolves become hangarounds and prospects and, and patched members. That happens.
Yeah.
Right. But initially they were riding their motorcycle and met up in a bar and saw some people, but the brotherhood drew them in.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, hey, I love riding the bikes and I love hanging out at the bars and, and dancing with the ladies and drinking beers. But the brotherhood calls to them, and then they get a little taste of it and they get sucked in. And I think that's why once you kind of have a good, strong kindred, why it's so hard to go back. And then for some people, the reason that they kind of stay isolated or self-isolate is because they didn't have a strong kindred. They had like a club that collapsed, and it's like, I don't want anything to do with clubs anymore. Clubs are trash.
Yeah, they got hit with shrapnel on the way out and everything. Yeah.
And it's like, no, not all clubs are trash. Not all kindreds are trash. Some of them are really, really good, but they have to be built correctly and they have to have the right foundation and they have to be doing it for the right reasons, right?
Yeah. So why is it called lone wolf? I mean, wolves are such social creatures.
Yeah, right.
Where did lone wolf come from?
Well, a lone wolf is generally a wolf that's been ejected from the pack. It's not
like a Vargavium.
Like a Vargavium, yeah, wolf in the sanctuary. But a lone wolf, which isn't a very common thing. I think a lone wolf is a wolf, usually the beta, that gets ejected out of the pack. Like maybe there's too many males.
Yeah.
It's not going to find a mate. They kick it out of the pack and it has to go exist on its own until it can maybe get absorbed into another pack or maybe find a lone female and then create its own pack, right? It's just wandering, waiting to die, essentially.
Because people are very proud to be a lone wolf, and it's like, why?
Yeah, like pack life.
Yeah.
So, and I think just generally speaking, like humans are pack animals.
Mhm.
And we all have packs, you know. I mean, if we went to Silverwood at a work party, right?
Mhm.
Our as dysfunctional as it would be, that would be our pack.
Yep.
You know, we wouldn't be hanging out with other random people and letting people come
Nope.
in and be like, no, you get away. These are our people, right? We'd be looking out for each other, protecting each other. But in truth, we don't even hang out with any of them after work.
Yep.
But if we had a work party, that would be our pack, right?
Yeah. It's funny because I mean that's happened.
Yeah.
You know, you're speaking on experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when we went and, you know, me and Edgel and Sasha all had work people just coming over and hanging out with us. And you're like, who are all these people?
Yeah. I mean,
it was our pack.
It's your pack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I think we're pack animals anyway, and it goes against human nature to be the lone wolf. So pushing or self-isolating out into the wilds, it doesn't serve you, but it's really just a way to escape the obligations and the duties of being a pack member.
Yeah.
Because in the pack, there's a pecking order.
Mm-hmm.
You may not like it, but there is a pecking order. In the kindred, there's a pecking order.
Yeah.
Those, you know, those sort of hierarchies and stuff exist, but they exist because every society needs a structure.
Mm-hmm.
It needs a social structure. And some people can't come to terms with structure, you know, and so they go lonely.
Especially a lot of heathens.
Yeah. Well, I think some, you know, there's a lot of heathens that came here because they're either they didn't run to heathenry, they ran away from Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think just initially you just got to be honest with yourself and define why you're here. Did you run to this, or did you find this while you were just hanging out, or are you just running away from something else? And this is just a temporary hold until you find what your thing is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But certainly for me, it was never running away from Christianity. For me, I just dropped Christianity and then just walked my own path, and it led me here.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't run to it.
No.
But I was open to whatever came. And I was, at the time when I found Ásatrú, I was reading about Buddhism. I was reading about Wicca. I was reading about all that stuff. But this is the one that just sort of resonated with me. And then I had a couple of pretty substantial, like, moments that, you know, that brought it full circle. So I guess at the beginning, I was kind of like the lone wolf too. I guess that's kind of where everybody starts. You start hanging out at the bar before you get picked up as a hang around and a prospect, right?
Yeah.
So
true. Yeah.
But when you identify as that, then you're building an identity around it, and then it's hard to break that. If you identify as the lone wolf, you know, I don't need anybody, I don't want anybody.
Those are walls you're building.
You're building an identity, and it's really hard to break an identity. Instead of just saying, currently, I'm on my own trying to figure this stuff out, but I would like to, you know, be a part of a kindred or a group one day.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they say, I'm a lone wolf. And now they build this identity around being the lone wolf. And now any attempt to connect with other people is breaking that identity. And people don't, you know, your ego will fight really hard to maintain your identity for good or bad, you know?
Yeah.
And
okay, so we should probably go on to, like, what are we on? Core pillar 4?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the ideas that tribe mattered. So we're still talking about Arch Heathen worldview. So back then, the tribe mattered, the group mattered, your village mattered, your people mattered, right? I mean, you could war with the neighboring village, right, and fight beside people you don't really care about, but it's still it was part of your tribe, so you were duty bound and obligated to protect them, right?
It was really hard to survive as a lone wolf back then.
How could you?
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't. I mean, in most cases, one person wouldn't have the skill to provide for all their needs. You wouldn't be able to cut your own firewood, build your own house, manage all of your flocks or your herds or whatever, take care of your family, breed your chickens. I mean, all those different things that would be required to live. Makes a lot more sense if people start developing specialities and trade goods and services, right? And that requires a society.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't want to be the sole provider making and everything that we needed on a day-to-day basis. Like,
there has to be a point where you can specialize in something and trade that for something else. And that requires a society. You know, it requires a tribe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like it'd be really hard to do all of that yourself. I mean, if you ask me, isolation equals weakness, and it used to be used as a punishment. You know, I mean, you could commit a crime against someone in the tribe or against the tribe as a whole, or even a series of crimes. In the last resort is like you're exiled, you're out. So many heathens are self-punishing by self-isolating. They're essentially putting on what would have been an Arch Heathen pretty severe punishment, you know, lesser outlawry, basically. I mean, greater outlawry is like kill on sight, right?
Yeah.
Which happens in clubs too. It's like thump on sight, like that guy's out bad. Like if you see him, fight him. So, you know, so that society still kind of holds that. But if you're self-isolating, you're passing judgment and you're sentencing yourself to to pay for a crime that you may or may not have ever committed, right? You're like you sentence yourself to lesser outlawry by refusing to be a part of a larger group. In the Arch Heathen worldview,
yeah.
But more and more people are just kind of self-isolating anyway and getting that connection through the internet.
Yes.
You know, because I guess a good way to say it is like, this is turning out to be a real long commercial for the idea of kinsmen, right?
Okay.
It's a big yes for Kindred. But it's a real false dopamine hit when you have interactions online. We've had great interactions online. You have friends and all that kind of stuff, and it feels good to have fun text and have good conversations and all that kind of stuff online, right?
Right.
And you get a little dopamine hit when people like your comments and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the same as your kinsman rolling up the driveway and giving them a big hug and then helping them carry in the groceries. That's a whole different level of dopamine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different level of satisfaction. We talked about it earlier that we can definitely build strong connections online, but the satisfaction of greeting someone isn't the same when you pop in a chat room like, oh, hey, man, you've been gone for a while. How you doing? You know, that's different than your kinsman rolling up the driveway. Like
with your favorite snack.
Yeah. I got Swedish fish. Brother.
Yes.
Pillar 5. So it's less about our community and ourself and our relationship. And it's that the sacred world is real, right? These things that we talk about, this connection to the ancestors, this connection to our land, to the gods, these are real things. They're not metaphors. Like the land whites or the land spirits, they're real.
Yeah, they definitely participate in our life.
They definitely do, right? Because we believe in them and we interact with them.
Yep. And, you know, they get a little ornery if we ignore them too long.
True.
So, but, you know, they also, you know, they take care of things that sometimes we're a little, you know, slow to see. You know, they're taking care of things for us.
Yeah. And they make us work too. They knock a tree over on the fence and make me go fix the fence. I don't know if that's a punishment or if there's some other reason they needed to draw my attention to that space, you know?
Yeah.
You know? Or maybe they need a god pole and they just need to decide they want to knock a tree down and make me work for it. I don't know. There's definitely a relationship that you build with your land. And I think that you can build that same relationship with the gods and your ancestors just by communicating with them, talking with them, interacting with them, holding ritual, and including them in your life and in the decisions that you make. Right.
I mean, I certainly feel like they're a huge part of my life.
Yeah. Just because you can't like physically lay eyes on them and see them, I feel like that they certainly participate in virtually everything that we do here. And I talk to them all the time. Like if I'm out doing work on the property, I talk to them all the time. What do you guys want? Where do you want me to do that? You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes they give me subtle hints as to what needs to be done. Maybe it's a bird in a tree chirping. It's like, oh yeah, I do need to trim that up, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But because you treat it as a real thing, and interact with it, then you're open to the messages like that say, hey, this tree needs to be removed, or that one needs to be, trimmed or pruned or whatever, I don't know. I just feel like, I guess it's kind of hard to articulate it, but they're real, they exist, and they interact with us because we believe that they're real and we believe in the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so because we believe they're real and because we believe in the interaction, we've built a relationship with the spirits of the land, with our ancestors, with the gods,
Mm-hmm.
in all respects. The energy of recognizing the presence of Heimdall is different to me than the energy of recognize the presence of Odin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I work with Odin, I know when it's nothing arrogant. I don't work with any of the gods,
Mm-mm.
but I recognize their intervention. And there's a whole different energy of feeling. It's almost like, I guess a good descriptor of that would be like, when you ever had a dream, right? And there's someone else in the dream,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing something or having this event or having this amazing adventure or even a horrible one, right? But who was there, even though you didn't look at them, but you felt the energy of that
Mm-hmm.
person. Have I ever been in a dream and you never saw my face? You just,
Oh yeah, all the time.
you just knew my
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about the gods and the whites and the ancestors, is that I can feel those energies and it, when Heimdall is guiding your hands,
Mhm.
right? And when Odin is inspiring you to do better or to learn more, right? And when Thor is inspiring you to work harder or be stronger or get out of your pity party or whatever. You can just feel it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to see them. They can be invisible and still be present. We're getting a little metaphorical here, but
No, it takes me back to, going under anesthesia and kind of throwing it out there to Freya, like, hey, I'm going to be, between these two worlds, I could really use someone to hang out with, kind of. And she was there.
What a cool thing to say.
Yeah. Because I was, a little freaked out, I'm slipping in this world, and she was there, and I never once looked at her. I just walked with her, and she was here, and I could see her, and she obviously took a humanoid shape.
Yeah.
In my but it was plain as day. It was Freya.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Nope, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yep, and I know her energy well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was very amazing.
Yeah,
they had trouble waking me up because they're like, it's like, oh, gotta go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So so I guess a key takeaway from that would be treat these spiritual relationships as real relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you can't see the participant on the other side of that relationship, treat it as it's real, and it will be real.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that it brings to your life are great. You may have a full and invisible kindred at that point. Yeah, you may self-isolate from humanity, but you still, as long as you're interacting with your spirits of your land and your ancestors and the gods, you're still partway there.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think you could ever be whole without a relationship with other humans, but you certainly are building relationships. And if there's relationships, if you can respect the relationship and the reciprocity of it, then you're one step closer to building a relationship with humans too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this isn't trying to be nostalgic about it or trying to like reenact dead practices. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is just living principles, meant to shape our behavior. Whether we're talking about arch heathens or modern heathens, these are heathen principles.
Yeah.
So the farther we get away from those principles, the farther we get away from heathenry. We don't require the middleman in order to build those relationships. You don't require the Gothi in order to have a relationship with the gods or the spirits, right? You don't require the chieftain in order to have a relationship with your kinsman, right? Like Jafnhar doesn't need to call me before he calls Stig, right? Like nothing goes through me.
Yeah.
And believe me, those guys will connive and pull all kinds of tricks on me. You know, they work pretty good with each other behind the scenes. So I don't know, like we haven't said it at all through this whole thing, but if you're digging this, if this kind of resonates with you, subscribe. Wherever you're consuming it, subscribe there. And if you want to see our faces, if you're not watching it on YouTube, it's on YouTube too. This is a video podcast too. And share it with somebody who's actually serious about heathenry and wants to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Right. And you can have a conversation with us too. Treat us like we're that invisible force, you know, listen, yell at the screen, whatever you want to do. Just talk to us, have the conversation. And if you really want us to hear you, send us an email. So we'll wrap this up because we're getting kind of long, but I just wanted to throw a couple of quick objections out.
Okay.
Because I want to play the role where I'm sure that there's people who have things to say that are counter to what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to give them voice by adding a few objections and answering them and save them the trouble if we could. So really quick, isn't this just romanticizing the past? And the answer is no. We're applying worldview principles, not recreating medieval life. And I think we kind of covered that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not just romanticizing the way the Vikings lived. I would not want to live in that time.
No, I would not either.
No.
It's hard.
There's never been an easier time to live
Yep.
than right now.
Yep.
With all of our distractions, our food is poison. We're essentially just labor slaves to the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as just physical comfort, there's never been a better time to live than right now.
Yeah.
Even in the 1960s, there was no more comfort or ease of living than we have right now. So I certainly don't want to romanticize that. But the worldview, the reciprocity with everything, animate and inanimate, is something to be admired.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're probably better at it because they live closer to it. We're so separated.
So objection 2.
Yeah, give it to me, baby.
Can't heathenry just be whatever people want it to be?
So obviously not, but if everything is heathenry, then nothing is, right?
Right.
It's just like at work, like the boss says, this is a priority, this is a priority, this is a priority. Okay, boss, if everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority, and things are just going to happen as they happen. You have to have some standard or some level of some degrees of all these things. If you just say, well, that's heathen, that's my heathenry, that's my heathenry, that's my heathenry, that's my heathenry, and there's no standard, then everything's heathenry. What else you got? What else? Give me another one.
Objection 3. I don't like obligation.
Then you don't want heathenry, because heathenry is obligation, it's responsibility, it's reciprocity, it's kinship. That's what heathenry is. It's all of those things wrapped up with invisible friends, like Heimdall here. So if you don't know, this bronze Heimdall, it was given to Galahorn Kindred many, many moons ago when Galahorn Kindred was first formed. So it's well over 30 years. It was given him. It may be one of the first like Heimdall statues that were cast in America, really, because it goes all the way back to the 70s, I think. And it was given to Galahorn. And then when we started the Northwoods, it was given to us. So Heimdall here is our patron. And this little bronze statue is at every ritual, even if it's not a Heimdall bloke, he has his own perch out in the Vey, his own place to stand, and he's always there. He's always in the Vey when we do rituals. So he is a kinsman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's part of our reciprocity, right? That's part of our obligation. We have an obligation to a bronze statue.
And our kinsman, I mean, he's just as real to any of our kinsmen because he makes it out to ritual every time.
Yeah.
I never grab him.
Yeah.
He's already out there.
Yeah, we'll forget, and they'll be like, "Oh, we got to get Heimdall," and they'll run back and grab it.
Yeah. That's happened once.
Yeah. So,
like everything was on hold.
Anyway, obligation.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of heathenry. It's part of what we live for, and really, it makes it worth it too.
Okay, objection 4.
Yeah.
Honor is outdated.
Yeah, that's a thing now. That honor is not necessary, and but I think that just caveats with that self-indulgent mindset, and it's something that we're going to work through. I think we're going to work through it.
I think so. I hope so.
the only way that honor is outdated is if you're afraid of accountability, right? And you're anchored in entitlement. That's the only way that honor can be outdated. There's always a reason or an environment where the honorable will outclass the dishonorable, right? That's always going to happen. Cowardice, dishonorable actions, dishonorable intentions will never serve anyone. They don't even serve the people who are doing it. All they do is drag them down. It drags down their spirit, really, and their reputation. I don't know who would say that, but I kind of dug around and found little objections around the web that I could throw in here, and that one seems like a stretch. Like, I probably found that one on Reddit. Really,
so, there's no honor on Reddit.
You know how that is, right? So in the end, nobody owes us anything. If you want something, you got to work for it. That's what it is. You work for it, and you treat people well, and you build and you earn friends. You do a good job, then you earn stuff. Just to kind of wrap it up. So if you don't remember anything else, understand that duty holds weight in this environment in paganism. So your duty, your obligation, your reciprocity, that holds weight in the community. The more of those things that you take on and the less you feel entitled about it, then the more valuable you are to your people. Honor matters. That's it. Like, your obligation defines strength, because nobody will put their eggs in a holy basket, right? In a basket with holes in it. Right. So the only way
that would be dumb.
Exactly, right? Because you can break all your eggs. So the idea is that I know that's a weird metaphor, but you got to ride this thing with me for a second.
All right.
The only way that you're going to have obligation is if people find strength in you. Nobody's going to depend on you if you can't deliver, right? They may sometimes ask more of you than you can deliver, but the effort to give that, to do well by your people, won't go unnoticed. Nobody ever expects perfection, but there is obligation and reciprocity. And you'll never get to the point of obligation and reciprocity if you have no strength to give. Nobody's ever going to put eggs in that basket if that basket is full of holes, right? So you got to start patching up the holes.
Right.
You got to patch up those holes. And by patching up those holes, it means you have to start you got to live honorably. You got to work hard. You have to help people. And you got to be willing to help people even when they don't deserve it. And even when they don't help you. How many
Those
people,
are hard ones.
How many times have I been badmouthed on the internet, right? And then I'll take
like
your
today.
No, not so. I'll take a badmouth video and I'll share it to my page, and I'll be like, if you want a stage, I'll give you a stage. I have 88,000 on TikTok, right? You got 400, and you want to badmouth me for some reason, I will put you in front of 88,000 people so that they can see it, right?
Yep.
I'll give you that stage. And I'll also ask you, are you okay?
Yeah.
Did I hurt you some way? Is this coming from a different place? Like, how can I help you get through that pain? Because I can see the pain. I've done this, right? And I've made friends this way. And they're like, hey, I just thought you were another arrogant piece of shit. Like, well, I got my moments, but this isn't one of them.
Yeah.
Like, how can I help you get through this? And I've done that for people.
Yeah. You have.
And so you have to be willing in a community. You got to be willing to help first. You got to be able to hand a piece of meat to that scared, whipped, beaten dog at the shelter, right? You got to approach that dog with patience and calm and caring if you're ever going to build a relationship with it. And when you do, that's the most loyal dog you'll ever own, right? I mean, I'm not trying to call people a dog, but the metaphor of that.
No, but I think people get that.
Yeah, is that
they've all had a good dog.
Regardless of how you're treated, lead with kindness, right? You can't go wrong. And even if the whole thing blows up in your face, all you've done is be kind, right?
Right.
So we've certainly been guilty of messing that up, but it's a lesson that I learn. And when you learn that lesson, it's painful to learn it twice, you know?
Mhm.
So all we can do is just keep learning, right? I guess lastly, the last thing we talk about is the sacred is real, right?
Mhm.
These things, the spirits, this reciprocity, everything that we talk about that we hold sacred in Northwoods Kindred and Asatru Global and just in heathenry in general is real. It's not made up. It's not bravado. It's not some relic from ancient times. It's real. It's part of the human condition, and how you navigate it is the biggest definer of who you are, right? How you navigate the sacred, how you interact with the sacred, I suppose.
At the end of this, just ask yourself, am I living like a heathen or just identifying as one?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Am I identifying? Do I just tell people I'm a heathen and then do nothing heathen like?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's when you go into your winters and it's like, we've had those winters and it's like, more feels like I'm just identifying as a heathen right now because I ain't doing nothing.
Sometimes that's what it is. And so, and that's I think an important thing for people to understand is that sometimes you go into a winter. We call them winters. They can call them whatever they want, but it's a dormant period.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially like when you first find heathenry, you're like hot, like you're reading everything, you're absorbing it, you're jumping in these groups, you're getting all this information. And then it's like literally like drinking from a fire hose. Even when you drink from a fire hose, eventually you're going to get a drink and you're going to get full. And there's just going to be all that other information is everywhere. And you got to have to just sit back and absorb it and let it settle and let it find its place. And in a lot of cases, when you get like overexcited about something and about, you get those periods of discovery and then they die off. And what you're doing is in the background is you're learning how to integrate those into your lifestyle. You're learning how to live heathen with these new principles and these new ideas that you just discovered, because I don't think you can teach them to people. You can definitely point the way, but they have to discover these things themselves. And once they discover them, then they have to figure out where to put them. Like we just gave a lot of information, some of it rambly and hard to kind of extrapolate, but it's going to sink in and it might be overwhelming to some people. It's like, whoa, that sounds like a whole lot of work. But then after a while, the little things will start working into your, hey, they'll be out mowing the lawn and the rock will be there and they'll be like, all right, guys, where do you want me to put this thing? Because I can't have it here. It's going to mess up my blades. Oh, that tree looks like a good spot, and you just start talking to the land and stuff. And so what you do is over time, you start integrating these things into your heathen lifestyle. And the next thing you know, everything you do is reciprocal with the divine or with the unseen sacred,
Yeah.
But those winters is those points where you just kind of sit back and you're like, and just let everything integrate. It's kind of like having a through your day, like you have a confusing series of events, right? And then you go to bed and you sleep on it, and then you wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, I know what that means. Oh, I can fix that, right?
Okay.
That's what your winters are, is when you go to bed at night and your brain puts all those pieces together, and then you come out of the winter and you're like, because it doesn't have to be December, like it's not like that,
yeah
right? It's essentially it's characterized by there's a period of intense learning or action or excitement, and then there's a lull, and then there's like a dry spell where you're not even doing anything, right? You're just like, let me just live my life and not worry about all this crazy. But while you're doing that, it's slowly becoming integrated into your life. And then when you pick it back up on the next excitement area, the next motivation period, you'll realize that you're now doing those things that you learned in the last one prior to your winter. And it's just a pattern. It's just pattern recognition. And you'll see it after a few cycles of that. Sometimes you go through a couple cycles a year, and sometimes some of those cycles are years long. We've certainly had full years where we didn't do any ritual. We didn't do anything really. Just years of us just living like Americans.
Yep.
Right? Without any connection to the gods at all. And then we come out of it and we're like, I miss Gallarhorn. Let's start a kindred.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this kind of thing, go check out our community on Discord, right? And then we'll list down below a link to our survey, because Asatru Global's coming, and we have put out a community survey so we can kind of tailor what we do and where we point our limited resources to where the community you need the most. So fill out that survey, and then we'll know a little. Gives us a really good idea of what the landscape looks like, so we can navigate it correctly and put the max amount of effort in the right spot to move the needle for heathenry. Right.
Right.
So, other than that, thanks for hanging out. Thor Bigi.
Go Vigi.
See you on the next one.